All right, cool. So you didn't die. Bulls, I'm sure you ready.
What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome into the CHGO Bulls Podcast. Coming to you live on this Friday afternoon, early August, summertime in Chicago. I'm Peck, Bulls _ Peck. Big Dave, bow, BAWL Sports, Will, the GOAT, perfectly coiffed Gottlieb, Will _ Gottlieb, and rocking with us behind the controls, the one and only Law on the Draw.
What's up, guys? I'm down here in the corner. How you doing?
I like how Mini Square Lawrence has a Lollipop Guild voice. You need to find yourself.
I'm so tiny on the screen. I thought I should have a Lollipop Guild voice.
We need a helium tank at the office for when you do your little Mini Square routine.
Sure.
Hope everybody has had a great week. We are here to talk Bulls. We are going to answer some mailbag questions, some from our diehards, some from Twitter, about young Bulls, vet Bulls. What are we doing? And if we got some time left over at the end,
what are we doing?
We might play a little fun game we used to play back in the day, into the dog days of summer, called Random Bulls Generator, who I saw somebody in the comments the other day was requesting because we haven't done it in quite some. We're getting to the Random Bulls Generator part of the off season, gentlemen, and I, for one, could not be more thrilled.
It is a good time when you can get to that. It is a very, very good time when you get to the Random Bulls Generator. I didn't want to go too grown for Will's sake. I didn't want to go too grown on him, so I made sure kept mine in the 2000s. You know what I'm saying? But still, I still think it's a tough one. I still think it's a tough one.
I appreciate you always keeping me in your thoughts and concerns, Dave.
I told you back here, Will. I told you right here.
I got a little spot right back there.
Matt's up here. Matt's in the front because he refuses to be put anywhere else. So he stays right here in the front. He stays there.
Making me sound like a reverse Rosa Parks of some kind, Dave.
No, son. No. Now I gotta move you. Now I gotta move you.
I refuse to move you anywhere but the front. Oh Lord.
No.
Colin saying, "Oh shit, pull that lever." We shall later on. But let's dive into some mailbag right out of the gate. First few coming from our diehard Discord. Sign up to become a diehard if you aren't already. GA Ross 18, our guy, asking, gentlemen, what realistic trade or move do you see the Bulls doing next? Is there a way to move off Jevon Carter's money, if nothing else? And I suppose you could pose the same question about Torrey Craig, another vet who kind of lost his way in Billy Donovan's rotation down the stretch of the season. With Jevon Carter, it just seemed like Billy found him to be unplayable. Torrey Craig did have that late season injury that he was struggling with. He did come back from it and did not really look like 100% himself. But either way, I think the question is still a valid one. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, like, the Bulls basically put a team together for the last couple of years that they envisioned for like this long-term future that they just never were going to have because the players that they were investing in were all old and hard to move. So when you bring in a guy like Jevon Carter and Torrey Craig on multi-year deals, it becomes hard to move them when you want to ultimately pivot. And I think that's why you see a lot of teams line their contracts up. So you have like multiple guys coming off the books in the same summer. That allows you flexibility. You can keep them on your cap hold and re-sign them, or you can renounce their rights and become players in the free agent market. The Bulls didn't do either of those things. They kind of put themselves in a situation where they layered it. So every year, maybe one guy comes off, but that leaves you in a situation where if you want to keep the core together, you got to re-sign, and you're not going to sign Vooch to a 1-year deal. He's not going to agree to that. So you either let him walk and you can't compete last year, or you re-sign him for 3 years. And now you're in this situation this summer where you lose DeMar and now you're stuck with Vooch and Zach. So I think just kind of like on a smaller scale, that's the situation you're in with Torrey Craig and with Jevon Carter. When you keep giving out player options, it gives these guys on 1+1s in particular with a player option, guys get a no trade clause. So basically they can veto any trade, which is potentially, I'm not reporting this, but it could be a reason why they never moved on from Torrey Craig last year. Maybe that becomes a possibility now. Jevon Carter had a 2+1, so he's got a player option next year. But ultimately, it's just kind of the same situation on a smaller scale where you've just got these guys that now you can't move, but completely don't fit the direction of the team. And so if it were me and I was the coach of this team and I was putting together the roster, I'd be much more interested in seeing what you could get out of Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry and Modest Buzelis and Patrick Williams and even Chris Duarte than, Torrey Craig. And same thing with the backcourt where you've got a ton of people. You want to see if Lonzo can come back. You want to see what Ayo and Coby can do. You want to give those guys reps. And so Jevon Carter is probably not going to be in the plans. And so maybe they'll look to move him, but he's the kind of guy that's like salary you can attach to another guy to like combine a lot of money to go and get a better player. The Bulls aren't trying to get better players right now. So those guys just kind of they're in limbo on a roster that's also in limbo. And so it'll just be interesting to see if they get moved, because I don't really see either of them being, aside from like locker room vets and mentors and things like that, I don't really see them being like massive parts of the Bulls vision and future as it pertains to like their actual play on the court.
Yeah, that's very true. I appreciate you explaining that, because, I was sitting here thinking like, wait a minute, their contracts aren't huge. Like, how can you not, easily move something like that? But I appreciate you breaking that down as to why.
Craig
really
should be movable. Like he's the kind of guy you could attach to Zach, and he can play. He can be like a rotation for. And so if you attach him to Zach, now you're getting 2 players for $45 million instead of 1 for 43. I think that becomes a little bit more palatable. So I can see him being like a little bit of kind of a sweetener on a Zach deal, but ultimately that's probably not going to be enough. You're going to need to attach picks or other assets to get something done there. So it's possible, but that's kind of why it hasn't happened yet.
I think the Bulls' next move is prayer. I don't really see anything else that they can really do right now. Get off of these contracts that they want to do. We talked about picking a lane and all those things. I feel like that lane, they know what they want to do. They want to go young, but obviously they can't because of the contracts that are attached to them, and they can't get off of those contracts, as we've gone over so many times with you beautiful people who watch the show. But I think that they have to just hope for something to happen, because I don't see how anything they can really do on their end to make something sweeter or something nicer or something more enticing for a trade for certain players, because they don't want to give up a ton of assets. I'm interested to see what they do with those maybe 2 second-round picks that they had when they made that trade. But I don't. It's so weird. They're in a very weird, tough position that they themselves put themselves in. Making your bed and now having to lie in it kind of situation. So that's what I think. I think their next move is just prayer, hope. You know what I mean? Like, we got to hope that some team wants to make this move and see if something happens, unfortunately, for another team, whereas they might need to make a move to get a guy like Zach LaVine or Vooch or Torrey Craig or whoever the Bulls have to offer. I do think that will become a little more crystallized as you get closer to the trade deadline during the season. But obviously the Bulls don't want to wait that long. They want to start it, now. And we want them to start it now. But yeah, something has to go down for them to have that to happen, because I really don't see it another way right now.
And like the other thing is, if the Bulls had, I said this the other day a bunch, so I don't want to spend too long on it, but like one way to get off of these guys would be to take on more money in return. And so the Bulls had an opportunity to create some space where they could have had enough room under the luxury tax to be able to take on more money in trades than what they were sending out. That's incentive for teams to take on a bad contract if they can get off of one that's a little bit worse. So maybe you take on, Jevon's contract, I think, is 6.5 this year. Maybe you can take somebody who's $9 million but expires after this season, and that gets you in the clear for next year. But you take obviously a little bit more of a cap hit. So that's the kind of move that I think the Bulls should be looking at. Maybe you can get a pick in that, maybe not. But ultimately, that's the kind of the move that you need to have space in order to make. Right now, the Bulls have about $4.5 million below the luxury tax. That's how they should be using that space, but they could have had a lot more of it.
Dysfunctional in the comments saying, eat the money and pay Jevon Carter to walk, please. What team would even want JC? Did they not watch him last year? And look, I think I agree, that maybe Torrey Craig is the more movable piece because of his contract, and he's a wing. He's a wing that is, if he's healthy, still, despite his veteran age status, a usable player in this league. Yeah. I also think Bulls fans don't feel like that right now with Jevon Carter, or certainly dysfunctional. The comments doesn't feel like that as a usable piece, but it was not that far in the past when Jevon Carter was a very important piece on a very good Bucks team. That version of Jevon Carter might still exist. The hang up I have is comparatively talking about, well, if you can't find a trade for Zach, you got to play him so that you can remind the other 29 teams what this guy's capable of doing on NBA court. And maybe to a lesser extent, even saying the same thing about Vooch, a vet who can still go out there and get you 20 on some nights and get you 10 to 15 boards on most nights. I don't like knowing that is something that they will have to simultaneously try to accomplish when they're trying to do this youth, movement, and that should be the focus. Jevon Carter getting minutes to raise his trade value makes zero sense to me. So it's if he's immovable right now because everyone saw how inefficient and the fact that Billy basically just benched him out of his rotation entirely midway through the season, and you can't really play him to raise his trade value because it's not that important to try. I'm just worried about the awkwardness of Jevon and maybe Torrey, but maybe Torrey might play just because Billy wants a vet out there playing. Just sitting on the bench and mad about that and not being tradable. So what happens there?
Well, I think, you brought up a point that, what team could be interested? What about the Bucks? They had him and he was really good with them. He shot 42% on 7 threes a game. That was the big number that we were talking about last summer. They lost, obviously, Drew Holiday. They have Dame now as a starting, point guard. They bring in Gary Trent Jr., who's a really good 3-and-D wing, but a little bit smaller, a little slighter, a guy who can primarily guard, at point of attack, but will have to shift up a little bit. Maybe they feel like Pat Connaughton is done and they want to move off from him. He's making more than Jevon Carter. The Bulls could help them out by giving them Carter back where he can play and soak up those, backup point guard minutes that they lost in Patrick Beverley and didn't really replace. The Bulls take on Connaughton, who's got a bigger salary, and maybe you get a second-round pick to do it. That's the kind of deal that, it's not sexy, it's not flashy, it doesn't really help the Bulls get better or worse this year. But if you get a pick as a, in order for the rights to, take on that Pat Connaughton contract, that's the kind of deal that the Bulls should be looking at. And I think those are the kind of fringe moves that we really have not seen at all from this front office regime, and really the last one either. I mean, they were never making, financial moves like this where it would be a financial hit, but they got draft equity or they got off of, a guy that wasn't helping them as a result of it. So those are the kind of moves I would be looking at, but we just haven't really seen any interest. And so obviously I'm not criticizing the front office for not being able to trade Jevon Carter yet, because I don't imagine there's a huge market for him, but that's the kind of move I would be looking into.
But also when we talk about Jevon, we also have to remember he was playing so well. Part of the reason he was playing well with Milwaukee is because he was actually playing. He was actually getting time on the floor. His minutes, he was averaging 20 minutes a game getting out there. So, and what do you have, 13 here, 12 or 13 minutes when he was playing here with the Bulls? Not to say that he shouldn't have been averaging that because he wasn't playing well, but he has shown if he gets more time in the game and more responsibility, he responded. And he responded very well for them. He's in a hard place to do that on this team because they are flushed with guards at that position. So it's going to be tough to give him the playing time, even as Matt talked about, giving him the playing time, even to showcase him to somebody, which they shouldn't do. But even if they had that thought to do that, it's a log jam right there, man. And he is not in the top 3 or even top 4 of guys that you're thinking about who needs to get time at that position.
Yeah. And, some guys are better at that than others as far as, adjusting to their roles. Jevon spoke on it last season and said, I got to play to hit my rhythm. So there is that. All right. Still plenty more mailbag questions up next, including questions from our guy Barton, Cameron, local Bulls fan, Easy, and more ahead on CHGO Bulls.
This is brought to you by Baby Joey. It is Baby Joey approved. Get ready for the season ahead with Carly shades that are built to last, because he is at Lollapalooza. Our friends at Shady Rays have got you covered with those premium polarized shades that will not break the bank. Shady Rays, the independent sunglasses company, offering that world-class product that's rated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Their shades have durable frames. Their shades have crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for your outdoor. And as I'm sure Matt Peck is going to prove to you, ladies and gents, your indoor aficionados. Shout out Wilco Gottlieb. They have got hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect style and pair that match you. And if you don't love the shades, you can exchange them for a new pair or return worry-free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always, and I mean always, has got your back. So exclusively for the listeners out there, Shady Rays is giving away their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use the promo code CHGO for 35% off those premium polarized shades and try for yourself. The shades that are rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people because the Shady Rays, well, the Rays are just so shady. I got them here. I just didn't put them on. I got them though. They're right there.
You need one of those, like clip the sunglasses over the glasses, pair.
Oh, the Dwayne Wade back in the 90s, baby. Shout out to Dwayne Waynes.
1900s.
Why you gotta bring D Wade into this, huh?
No, I didn't say Dwayne Wade. I said Dwayne Wade. It's a different thing, man. It's a different thing.
Oh, okay. I thought you were I thought D Wade rocked those glasses.
No.
You're talking.
No. Talking about the TV show A Different World, bro. Like TV show A Different World. We'll get into it. That's some blackness we got to get into, man. It's all good.
I was right there with you, big man.
Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, who are here to help you elevate your summer. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They've got a crazy selection with over 100 different strains to choose from, with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They have spots as far south as Champaign, shout out U of I, and as far north as South Beloit, plus tons of locations in Chicago and the surrounding suburbs. Stop in the nearest store for your expert guidance from their staff or select from their high-quality lines like Cresco or Floracal. And here for the summer is the Good News Tea Time Disposable Vape, bringing classic lemonade flavor that's perfect for the golf course. Because we all need a little help staying loose on the green. And just in time for Lala, it's this weekend. Free Spirit vapes and cartridges are all new from Good News. With a lush mango flavor, these vapes are perfect for tapping in to your flower power. I always like to grab myself a pack of them Good News Brunch tangerine flavored gummies when I am looking for a little something on my weekends. So go to sunnyside.shop right now and get this. You can get 50% off your first 3 purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day. Only for 21 and over in Illinois Med card holders. So many Sunnysides at that Lala event this weekend, I'm sure.
So many sides that are sunny.
I did see the Bulls team account started tweeting out pictures of people wearing various Bulls jerseys, which is always fun to see. Lala is what do you guys think? Summer League or Lala in the spotting crazy ass NBA jerseys? Which one's the better venue for that?
Summer League for sure. That's where crazy jerseys go to thrive.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better myself.
That's the crazy jersey convention. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
He's right. We saw a Jimmy Fredette Bulls jersey out there. So, yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
I saw Luke Babbitt Heat jersey. Come on. Luke Babbitt.
We saw Greg.
Do you mean USA Basketball 3v3 legend Jimmy Fredette? That one?
Yeah, that was Chris.
Yes.
Got a Jimmy Fredette Bulls jersey. I think it was probably custom made.
He sure
Had
did.
Had to be. Just like the one Matt Thomas jersey that exists somewhere out in the universe.
Stop hating. Why? He's just out there being a great shooter. Why are you doing this?
Why?
It's not hating. It's not hating to point out that clearly somebody loves him enough to have made a custom Matt Thomas jersey.
Just real quick, I'm seeing a great question from Colin in the comments. I don't know if we can talk about it today. I'd probably have to do some homework on it beforehand, but at some point, maybe the next couple of weeks, I'll write something about how the Bulls can and what their approach should be when it comes to extending Ayo and Coby, who now have 2 years left on their contract. So that's kind of the next running clock. Obviously, you've got Giddey now to deal with, but after that, it's Ayo and Coby. And I think there's a lot to unpack with that. So I'll write something on that for the next couple of weeks.
For sure. And we do have some questions that we're getting to later on about gauging the trade value currently of both Coby and Ayo. So we'll talk about that. But next one on deck is our guy, Barton Shaw from the Die Hard Discord, asking, this team is stuck threading the needle of competing and recouping value and development of their young guys. Which young guys have the best chance to stand out given that scenario, the shape of the roster, and who our coaching staff is? And in sort of a similar light, Cameron on Twitter asked, who will be the most improved young player on the Bulls this season? Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips, Patrick Williams, etc. So of the young core that we are now kind of focusing on, which one might be in the best position with all of those factors to have perhaps a big jump of a season, a breakout season, based on the position they play, minutes we expect them to get? It's a very interesting question. Big Dave, what do you think?
I think the easiest answer for me will probably be Patrick Williams, because he's the only one that's coming back who, if as it is right now with Zach and with Vooch on the roster, he's and Josh Giddey and all those guys, he's the only one coming back where he'll be playing a position where he knows exactly where he's going to be, and that'll be at the 4. He knows that's where he's going to be, because Coby, we're still not sure. Like, will they run Coby at the 1? Or they run him at the 2, and they'll Giddey that we don't know that yet. That hasn't been figured out. But we know Vooch is going to be at the 5 and Pat is going to be at the 4. So it's easy. I think the easiest answer for that is Patrick, because no matter what the roster is or changes or whether those guys are there or not, that's kind of where he's going to be. The only way I think it changes is if you get rid of Zach LaVine, and then you might move Pat back to the 3 and make Modest your 4, if that's what you want to do, which is what I want them to do, because then we could get into some fun bad stuff. But I think Patrick's the easiest answer for me, just looking at it.
Yeah, I like Patrick this season too. I think, you remove DeRozan from the equation and you put in a guy at like functional. I mean, he'll be like the small forward, but functionally he is more of a point guard in the sense that he's going to be the connective passer. He's going to be setting guys up, and that's really what Giddey does best. And so I think he really helps Patrick more than DeRozan did. As great as DeRozan was, like, he was very much a score first player. He's a good passer out of that when guys would collapse on him, but he wasn't like a pass first guy. And I think Giddey is. So assuming Patrick can, take the reins a little bit, understanding they just gave him a big extension. It's an opportunity now with DeRozan gone for him to take up a little bit more usage. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of competition still with Ayo and Coby and Zach and Vooch and Buzelis and all these guys. But I think that there's opportunity for Patrick to carve out a bigger role for himself. And I think Giddey can really help him in just improving. So at the same time, like, I'm having trouble with this question because there are just so many guys. And I think that's kind of the question we talked about, a couple of weeks ago, was like, what is the rotation going to look like? I mean, you can't play 12, 14, 15 guys. And this Bulls roster is pretty deep. So I'm just curious to know who will even be in the rotation, because until you can answer that question, it's really hard to give you a good answer for who's going to take the most of an opportunity, because we just don't know who's going to get that opportunity yet. Dalen Terry played like 14 minutes a game after the All-Star break for the Bulls. Julian Phillips had the foot injury, so he was out. Like, I think both of those guys could be good role players, but it's just going to be about who kind of gets the first opportunity and do they run with it? If not, then who's the next man up and is it their turn? So I think that's really like going to be kind of the focus in training camp and preseason, is like, who does Billy go to for some of these? I think we can all agree like Patrick, Modest, and Giddey are going to be the like primary 3-4s, but like beyond that, who else is going to be playing on the wing? Is it Zach shifting up so you can get some more guard play in there? Is it, Dalen or Julian sliding in and playing up a little bit? It's going to be fascinating to figure that out, but I think that's really, Billy now has just a lot of pieces he has to figure out what to do with. And right now, it's impossible to say who's going to play more than, who else.
Even the Torrey Craig we just mentioned, Will, him too. You got to
exactly.
Yeah. I like how as soon as Dave was saying Patrick Williams' name as the answer to this question, Ecoby in the comments said, it won't be P. Will, that's for sure. Saying that Jalen Smith is also going to eat into Patrick Williams' minutes at the 4. Colin wondering if we're going to see and how much we'll see Patrick Williams and Modest share the floor together. And, maybe that goes in that conversation of, are we going to see more Pat at the 3? Modest with his size and length playing the 4. Although I think right now, I think it's fairly safe to say that Patrick is more switchable defensively. We like some of the things we saw on the defensive end from Modest in summer league games. He might develop into a player that has that defensive technique and ability to switch out and guard smaller guards around the perimeter. Like, we know that Patrick Williams can do that. Patrick Williams has been for years now taking most often the most difficult defensive assignment on a nightly basis, regardless if that's a shooting guard, a wing, a power forward, sometimes even smaller centers. So to me, I also feel like I want the answer to be Pat, because like you were saying, Dave, this giant backlog of guards, it's hard to figure out who's going to play which minutes, who's starting, who's coming off the bench. Patrick Williams, that front court is just like begging for someone to do something useful in it other than Vooch. For the love of God, someone in the Bulls front court do something useful. Yeah. And, like you said about the contract, Will, something to prove that he earned that contract, because I think a lot of Bulls fans feel like 5 years, 90 is not that big in today's NBA salary cap numbers, but even still, that's a whole lot of money to give somebody that Bulls fans, I think, have been largely disappointed by when you talk about production versus potential and expectations when it comes to Pat. But there is no reason, and I feel like we've said this about Pat before, there is no reason and nothing in his way to prevent him from having finally a breakout kind of season.
Well, he's got to be healthy first, and he's still recovering from that foot bone edema. So hopefully he's back, and he said he would be by training camp, but it's been a little while now since his surgery in the first week of April. It's August, first week of August now. And last we heard a couple weeks ago, he was still not quite there yet. So we will see.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next question comes from local Bulls fan. This one's kind of funny. How long should a rebuild last before you actually start winning? We've seen teams like the Pelicans draft Zion, but failed to get out of the middle. This is an unanswerable question to me. How long should a rebuild take? I mean, Michael Jordan at the podium being asked about the maybe they're going to tear it up and rebuild Krause Bulls of the late 90s. He made a joke about the Cubs being a team that was rebuilding for 45 years at the time and still had not won anything. In my opinion, the Bulls have been rebuilding since they broke up the core that was around Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah that got bounced in the conference semis in 2015. In my opinion, the Bulls have been rebuilding for nearly a decade now. And there have been different iterations of that. The crash and burn 1 year failure 3 alphas experiment. And then what you got in the Jimmy trade years that failed. A new front office comes in, overhauls the roster entirely. You make one playoff appearance, and now this is failing. It's all the same failed rebuild. So how long should it take versus how long will it take? Who the F knows?
That's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between rebuilding and having a plan in it and just being bad in perpetuity. And like you see some teams that just can't get out of their own way. The Pistons, the Hornets, the Wizards come to mind, where it's like they're just rebuilding every year, but really it's just that they can't build anything. And then you look at teams like the 76ers, the Thunder, where they had these like very specific, you can put the Magic in that category too. After they traded Vooch, they were down for 2 years. They drafted Franz, they drafted Paolo, and now all of a sudden they're at 47 wins and they're back in the playoffs. So I think you have to have a plan. You have to stick to that plan. You have to execute it, and you have to be a little bit like ruthless in the way that you go about it. You have to be okay with losing, and then you have to be like very vigilant in getting value wherever you can. So I don't think I know I've called this a rebuild for what the Bulls are doing. I don't really think it is a rebuild. I think it's more of a retool in the sense that most of the roster is still the same. You're losing 2 players from your rotation last year. 2 out of like your top 7 guys are gone, and the other 5 are returning. So you're not really like changing anything. You're having like a course correction towards a younger group. But to me, I think the Bulls are at risk of falling into that category where they're just like bad or mediocre in perpetuity. And that's kind of what I've tried to advocate against. And having that rigid, specific, vigilant, kind of ruthless plan, that's what you need to have in order to not end up in a Hornet situation, because that's kind of what the Bulls have been looking at the last 10 and really even 25 years.
All right, let's take this break. I'll come on back.
Plenty more questions on the other side, including a lot of people asking about trade value of both Coby White and Ayo Dosunmu. That's coming up next. CHGO Bulls Today brought to you by our friends at Circa Sportsbook. Oh my gosh, football is back. Can we just take a moment to acknowledge the glory of that? The Bears are 1-0, y'all. The Bears are 1-0. Yes, it was a Hall of Fame game when nobody real played, and they only made it through not even 3 quarters before it got rained out. Right. But the Bears are 1-0. Football is back. I'm just going to throw money on the Bears money line every Sunday this season because I'm a believer. And you can be too. And you should do your NFL and pro Bears betting at the one and only Circa Sportsbook. Offering those tight money line splits and always striving to have starting odds for point total over-unders, game spreads, money lines at -110. Unlike a lot of other sports books these days who you see pushing those starting odds to -115 or -20 for no good reason at all. Circa also keeps as little as money as possible on large market bets like futures. Who's going to win Rookie of the Year? Maybe you feel like throwing a little money on Miles Buzelis, who's got pretty solid odds right now compared to what we might see from him, as well as golf tournaments. Another great example of those large market bets. So if you're feeling good about any of those kind of bets, the best value you get is at Circa, who also, of course, have the best customer service in the business. Real people behind that Circa Sports brand who resolve any issues you might have with their app in a timely fashion. All aspects of their app are being run by the same team that run the main Circa Sportsbook at the Circa Sportsbook, at the Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. I miss it. Damn, I miss it. Download the Circa Sports Illinois app today at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up. Be on the lookout for their events, watch parties, and tailgates. Always hanging out with our CHGO Cubs crew for the 120 Club. You know I got to be repping today. Cubs beat the Cards again today. Let's go 120 Club. If you or someone you know may have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. Text GAMB to 833-234 or visit areyourreallywinning.com.
Know who else was out there hanging out with Cody? A couple of them diehards was out there with him. And you can become one yourself, ladies and gentlemen. And you say to yourself, well, why? Why would I want to become a diehard? And first of all, I look at you crazy for even asking such a question like that. But then because I care about you, I would have to break it down for you. Oh, well, of course, you're going to get that premium written content from those guys like Will to Go, Gottlieb, and many, many others. But most importantly for me, you get 20% off of events. Let's start there. 20% off of events. What kind of events do y'all have? I mean, I don't know. You want to go to London? How about that? You like that? Would you like to do that? I think you would. Go watch the Chicago Bears over in London hanging out. Save some money on that. How about that? You can do it, ladies and gentlemen. Or let's say you just want to hit the takeover with the Sox crew and see if they can break the MLB record for most losses. That is a fun thing to do because that is what I'm rooting for right now as a Sox fan. You can save 20% off of that too, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to ride. But if you like the golf, if you like getting out there and having some fun, well, you can join CHG at Cog Hill #2 on August 23rd for that second annual kick-off classic presented by Circa Sports, Illinois, Coors Light, Shady Rays, and Celts Up. You can sign up as individual, twosome, or a foursome, y'all. You get 18 holes in a cart. You get tee gifts for every player. You get limited edition CHGO pins and Aces Golf Polo available for purchase, but you get giveaways. You get prizes. You get lunch. You get drinks. We have a whole ceremony after the whole thing is over, which was really, really fun, by the way, giving away those gifts and prizes. And, of course, all the personalities. I know Matt Peck is going to be in the house showing off the guns, letting y'all get some love out there. But, yes, 20% off of that. 20% off of that, ladies and gentlemen. You can go hang out. So become a diehard. And when you do it, how about we bless you with a free shirt just for doing that? Huh? How about it? We're going to hook you up with that, man. And, of course, the members-only Discord that they have available, the CHGO Lounge, where you go hang out and talk about anything. You can also come hang out and talk about wrestling because we're having the CHGO SummerSlam watch party tomorrow starting at 6 p.m., but we will be all up in that Discord over this weekend talking wrestling with y'all. G.A. Ross, I see y'all. But yes, become a diehard. Come hang out with us, man. We would love to hug you and see you.
Rah! SummerSlam. Rah! I'm very excited and happy for you.
I saw Seth Rollins today talking about Caleb Williams, and I was like, well, there goes Matt's favorite wrestler right there.
Yeah, he's the one who's a Bears fan.
He's the one. He's the Bears fan, dog. So he loves the Bears, loves them dearly. Thank you for the cloud, though.
Isn't CM Punk a Chicago guy? Is he a Bears fan?
He is. And here's the thing, Matt. They hate each other. And they'll be in a match in SummerSlam where Seth will be the special guest referee and CM Punk is going to be wrestling Drew McIntyre. So foolishness will ensue. We're looking forward to this one.
So I'm guessing the script involves the referee, who's also actually a very notable pro wrestler, will just stop being a referee and engage in the fight himself.
We'll see. If you pick on the ref, he would have to protect himself. We'll see how it goes.
I'm not saying that wrestling scripts are predictable, but
it happens. Hey, that's
exactly
what guest referees, when you're a wrestler and you're a guest referee, yes, you can expect some hijinks to happen, but what kind of hijinks? Let's tune in to find out.
I feel like they need their own belt. There's so many belts in wrestling. They need a belt that's like, I am the pro sports Bears fan champion. Or I guess it would have to be just even specific to wrestling. I'm the pro wrestling Bears fan champion, because there are other professional athletes who are perhaps more notable Bears fans. Most recently, Simone Biles joining that club.
In there. She's by association, but we'll take it.
Oh, yeah. Of course we will. Are you kidding me? Like, as soon as that news broke about Jonathan Owens coming to the Bears from Green Bay, she tweeted immediately that she was excited, because who wouldn't be excited to get the hell out of Wisconsin and move to Chicago?
Shout out Lawrence for that graphic right there.
Hey, Giggity's in the comments pointing out Tim Duncan is a Bears fan. I don't know if
He is.
That. Did you know
that? That's true. Yes, I did know that. Yeah, he's a big Bears fan. He's been a Bears fan since he was younger, dog. Damn, Will.
That's just so random.
Just kind of like pick a random team. Well, because didn't Tim Duncan grow up in the USVI? So you don't have your own
Virgin
team.
Islands, correct?
Yeah, you don't have your own team. You pick a team, and based on his age, maybe he fell in love with the '80s Bears.
Okay,
could be, man. Could be.
He
is down.
Let's dive into some more mailbag. There were 3 questions we got from 3 of our friends that are all kind of in the same light. So I feel like I'm just going to read all 3 of them, and then we can have ourselves a big old discussion about Coby and Ayo and hypothetically trading either of them and what their value is. So shout out to our guy Easy, who asked us, we've got a lot of guards. We will have to play them and then later pay them. I love Ayo, but isn't it the best time to trade him? Even though it breaks my heart to say this. We desperately need a young big. Jalen Smith is just a backup to me. Yeah, maybe you include Vooch in that trade. Fish, meanwhile, saying, do you think one of Ayo or Coby should be traded for assets, given that their contract should not immediately worry teams about going into the second apron? Could they be a rare exception of a bird in the bush being worth more than one in the hand? And our guy Jamal from Bulls Central asking, what is Coby White's trade value right now? Not saying the Bulls should trade him, but if everything is in fact on the table, it has to be something the Bulls should monitor. No. So a lot of people asking about Coby and Ayo and their contracts and whether or not the Bulls should be exploring what their market value is right now. I think it's a fascinating and valid question. Do you want to start with one or the other, or go? Do you think that when it comes to Coby and Ayo, they're kind of in a similar boat as far as if you're the Bulls front office and how you're viewing your roster construction for this season and beyond?
Well, I think part of the reason why we don't have resolution to this and maybe won't get it is because there's a little bit of time before we need to make that decision. So I think that if you are looking to put yourself in a situation where you're looking for picks and you want to maximize value, now is the time to trade those guys. We just saw this movie with Caruso and DeMar and
don't
Vooch
tell
and
the
Zach
Bulls front office they have time to make decisions, Will, because they will take that and run with it.
If you end up wanting to move those guys for picks or to bolster your future in some capacity, then now is the time to do it, or at least at the trade deadline. 1.5, 2 years before the end of the contract, that's the time to do it. Both of these guys are on value deals where they are far exceeding the amount that they're being paid. So, but the reason why I don't think anything is going to happen is because the Bulls still don't know what's going to happen with Lonzo, Vooch, and Zach. So basically Coby and Ayo both expire after the 25-26 season. That means they're going to be free agents in the summer of 2026. Lonzo's contract is up after this year. Vooch's contract is up that same summer. So Vooch will probably be gone at that point. I can't imagine that he is being brought back, even if it's like at a super small number. That would be just kind of insane, given he'll be like in his, mid 30s, late 30s, even by that point. So you're removing basically $50 million of salary right there. As we know, the cap is going up by 10% compounding every year. So there's a lot more space. And right now, all you have under contract for that season is Zach's player option in the final year of his season, Patrick's contract for the third year of his deal at $18 million. And then you have Jalen Smith, Matas, and Julian Phillips. That's it. So you have plenty of space to re-sign those guys. Likely what will happen is they will have to let them get to free agency because they're going to be more expensive than what their extension number will be. So they're not going to be able to afford to extend them, or these guys won't agree to extensions because they will be too team friendly and not player friendly enough. So I say all that to say, like, there is space. Now, the question is, like, what's going to happen with Zach? Because that's $50 million on the books that year. And what's going to happen with Giddey? Do you re-sign him now and put yourself in a situation that is a little bit compromising for your future flexibility? Because if you do, you get to that summer of 2026 and you've got Giddey on the books. Maybe you still can't move Zach, but you've got Patrick. You've got, these two massive extensions coming in for Coby and Ayo. Are you really going to be able to afford to do that and also be players on the free agent market? You also have to factor in like the rookie picks that you may or may not have. So basically what I'm saying is, like, if you are so determined to keep Coby and Ayo, you want those guys to be Bulls for life, you want them around long term, but you also want to win, you're going to have to make some tough decision at some point somewhere. And the question is, like, is that tough decision going to have to be Coby and Ayo and you trade them to get picks to create space to be able to be good one day? Or do you just kind of hang on to this core that you have with, Giddey, Coby, Ayo, Patrick, Buzelis? Maybe you keep your pick next year and you hope that core is good enough that even when you pay them, they can be competing for championships. Ultimately, I think they will either need to carve out like max space on the free agent market, which they could do, or decide to trade those guys. And I think that's going to be the decision that they pretty much have to make by this trade deadline, because that's really the time where you're going to be able to get the most for Coby and Ayo. So it's complicated. There's a lot of factors going into it in terms of, money coming on and off the books. Who knows what other free agent signings they will make in the next 2 years? Who knows whether they'll be able to get off of Zach? Are they going to have to take back a bunch of money to do it? So a lot factors in here, but basically the question is, like, in 2026, when you have to re-sign those two guys, are you going to be capped out after doing so? Or are you still going to have enough space to be able to go out and make a move? Right. So these next 2 years are kind of these like transition periods before you have to pay those guys. And so that's what these next 2 years should be about, is about setting yourself up in the best way possible so that when you come to the summer of 2026, you can either pay those guys and also go out and get a max free agent or something like that, or you have traded those guys and you've gotten a ton for them so that when you get to 2026, you've got a bunch of pieces and assets to work with moving forward.
Yeah, well, that's perfectly said, and kind of where my thought process was. It's hard for me, and when we talk off air, Will, I usually say this to you, like, it's hard for me to say certain things about certain players until I see them do certain things. And this is a big year for all the guys you just kind of mentioned, as far as the future of the Bulls and the future of them, period. Like, this is a huge year. This is one of those years where you can justify giving certain players certain things just by how they played this year. If Coby has that kind of year, you're like, dude, really? We're going to let that walk out the door? Or if Ayo continues to grow and you see a chemistry within them, or if one of them kind of stays the same or, kind of falls down, you kind of know. And also they've locked up one of their other best friends, which is Patrick Williams, for a nice 5-year contract. So I think that might play into this as well. But nothing as far as them has indicated that they don't want to be playing for the Chicago Bulls. We just talked about Ayo yesterday and how he loves being in the city and his contributions to the city of Chicago off the floor. We know what it means to him to put that Bulls jersey on the floor. So you got guys who want to be here. You got guys who have shown that they have some talent. I don't know if they've shown that talent to be number one guys. I think we're all in agreement that we don't think that they're number one guys. of course, they're more than welcome to prove me wrong on that shit. But Coby, and I've said this before about him, he's not a guy I'm going to doubt anymore. I'm just going to let him play and let me see what he can get. Then also letting a guy like that walk out the door again, it reminds you just of all the young players the Bulls have let kind of walk out the door and have thrived wherever they went. It's hard to name a young Bulls player that hasn't done well after they kind of left here. And you can include Jimmy Butler in that also. It's kind of hard to pick one that didn't look like, oh shit, like we didn't hold on to that. I don't want to go through that again with a guy like Coby or a guy like Ayo and things like that. But I'm not against it. Nobody's untradeable or anything like that. If you offer me something that I feel like can help our team, then yeah, I'm down for doing it. But this year is going to tell a lot as far as going forward with that, man. It's gonna tell a whole lot on guys like Coby White and Ayo Dosunmu, man, about what their futures will be here with the Bulls.
Well, one more thing on that is, I think you do have to be, I said this before, you do have to be a little bit ruthless here and take I think the Bulls they fell in love with DeRozan and everything that he brought to the organization. And they fell in love with Caruso and the way that he played. And it's like, yeah, that they were great and they were fan favorites, but if holding on to them is going to end up costing you, it's not worth it, at least to me. And so I think you have to at some point be willing to make a hard decision. And that's why you trade that guy for maximum value in return before he gets to be a free agent where he can walk for nothing. And so I think you do have to be a little bit willing to make some tough calls here, because otherwise it's easy to fall in love with players. But at the same time, this team has just been in the middle for 10, 15, 25 years since Michael Jordan retired. And the way to get out of that is by getting a haul of assets. And I think they've tried to do that in the past, obviously with Jimmy most notably, and it worked out to a certain extent, but obviously left a lot to be desired. But you can't just hang on to what you have and expect your fortunes to change if what you have isn't good enough. And that's no disrespect to those guys. But I just think you have to put the feelings of, do I like this guy? Is he good for the community? Is he good in the locker room? You kind of have to put some of that stuff aside and make the hard decisions about what's actually best for this basketball team. Because at the end of the day, the fans are going to get on board with whoever's on the roster. They're going to get on board with the team that's winning and not with the team that's in the middle. So you can like the players, you can like the front office, you can like anything, but at the end of the day, it's about winning. And you have to put yourself in the best position to do that. If you have to make some tough decisions on losing people that you really like, so be it. But that's what it takes to be a winning team. And obviously the Bulls are still working towards that.
Yeah. And the problem with that, Will, is it's bitten them in the ass over and over again when they let those guys go, and you just watch it all the time. Another guy that we let go just comes up and does something and is playing amazing. Damn, why did we do that? And why weren't we like that? So I think I've seen them be that kind of I don't know about this front office be ruthless. I've seen the other one be ruthless for sure. But this one, you're right. They fell in love with those guys like DeMar and Caruso. I don't know where they lie with the young guys like that. I feel like they value the veteran players more so than they do, those younger players like that. I think they're more willing to let that go, but we'll see. But I'm like I said, this is a good year to find all that shit out. Are they the ones? Are they part of this? Will they be a part of this future? I know a lot of people think not. I'm all about letting them prove it. I'm all about letting them show and improving, and then letting me make that decision that way.
I mean, Antoine in the comments. Sorry, just Antoine in the comments. Just agree with you, Dave. Let them go out there and see if they can prove it. He said, Antoine said they're going to prove, the doubters wrong because they're hungry. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. That's why you give them the first half of the season before you make that decision. But at the end of the day, the Bulls have never, and I don't really think any team has hung on to a guy too long and still been able to get peak value for him. We've just seen this play out with Caruso, where they could have gotten multiple picks and young players at the trade deadline last year. They waited and then they got one young player, which obviously they're happy about, but they could have had more if they had done it sooner. Same thing with DeRozan. Same thing with Zach. If they had traded him when he had value, you're not in this situation right now. You can't hold on to a guy too long and then still get stuff for him. They have not learned that mistake after so many different times of having to live it. And so I think, yeah, it's a hard one because it's two of the guys that have worked out for you, right? It's two of the young guys that have hit. But at the end of the day, those are the kind of hard decisions. I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but that's the thought process, and that's part of the hard decision making process.
I think it requires some perspective, like what you were saying, falling in love with guys because they're the up and coming thing, the new fun thing. A guy who, like Coby, is coming off of a year where he took a huge leap, nearly wins Most Improved Player award. Eco being saying keep Coby, Colin saying Coby and Ayo could and should be Bulls for life. Dysfunctional, I think, said, Coby's homegrown talent, he stays. Fish, meanwhile, saying, I think 6 years of Coby and nobody else will be a lot like 6 years with Zach LaVine and nobody else. And so that's the perspective that I wanted to contribute to this conversation, because as much as I love Coby White and what he did last season, and I'm not saying that there is no window of potential growth for Coby to be an even better player this upcoming season. I mean, somebody on Twitter just asked us earlier today, like, hey, or not asked us, said like, hey, hot take, like Coby White's going to be in the MVP conversation next season. And I laughed my ass off silently and then responded with something a little less mean than that. But I'm like, are you kidding me? No. In what world? And then they say, well, like maybe not MVP conversation, but definitely an all-star. And I'm like, definitely an all-star? How do we know that? And when it comes to the contracts part of this conversation, with whether it be Coby or Ayo, you can't let these guys go. They're actual homegrown talent. The Bulls drafted them. They're getting better. Keep them around. How many Bulls fans who feel that way about Coby and Ayo right now rolled their eyes and hated the Zach LaVine contract and said in their defense of not liking the Zach LaVine contract, yeah, he might be an all-star, but he's like a fringe all-star. He's a reserve all-star. He's a sub all-star, and he's not an all-star that you build your team around. He's not a franchise number one. And that in its own way was a valid argument for the people making that argument. You think Coby White and or Ayo Dosunmu could put together a season that Zach LaVine had when he was at his peak with the Bulls? Because that was 25-5-5 on 2 little free throw percentage points away from a 50-40-90 season. And now look, Coby White just had an impressive statistical season in 23-24. He averaged 19 a game. He was flirting a little bit, but like shy flirting with 50-40-90. He shot 44.7 from the field. That was a career best. He shot 37.6% from three, and he shot 83.8% from the free throw line. He averaged 4.5 rebounds and 5.1 assists. So that's not a far cry from LaVine 50-40-90, 25-5-5 season that had him in one of his 2 All-Star appearances. But it is still asking Coby to average 6 more points per game next season than he did this past season. That's a big jump. And even if Coby accomplishes that and the Bulls sign him to a new contract after this team-friendly one he's on right now to stick around, then we are in the same freaking loop of Bulls fans saying, yeah, Zach LaVine was an all-star, but he's not a franchise guy. And boy, by God, did the Bulls overpay him. Coby needs to get better than he is now by a considerable margin to have a season like Zach LaVine for Bulls fans to then say, oh, he's not worth that money. I am already dreading us having that conversation a year or 2 from now.
I also think, like, Coby, as much as he improved last year, he's never had a positive EPM. Like, he's a good player. He's not a great player yet. I'm not saying he can't be one, but he's also going to be 24 this year. It's not like he's 19 and he has all this upside. It's going to be his 5th year in the league. His 6th year in the league. So a lot of that, like, when you look at young players, they can have like parabolic improvement really quickly when they're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And then they start to flatten out when they're in their like mid 20s. And that's where Coby is right now. So I'm not saying he can't get any better. I think he can. And I think more opportunity will result in him getting better. But I think he is like not at a point where he's even in that conversation as like a max player. So I'm not sure it results in the same cycle, but I think it's the same concept of like, you aren't putting yourself in a position to put good talent around your good players. And so if you can't do that, then you need to reset. And so that is an argument to maybe sell high on Coby while you have the chance, because again, if you wait too long, then you're not going to get anything, or maybe he walks for nothing. So it's obviously a tricky situation, but I do think that there's a lot more here beyond just like Coby got a lot better last year and let's see what more he can do. There's like the contracts, there's other teams' valuation of him and what he's going to get as a free agent when he gets to it. So there's just, it's more than just like, he's a good player. He is a good player. He's a great player, but there's just so much more to it when it comes to the team building and the concepts behind that actually result in you putting a good basketball team together. I'm not sure they are in a position where they really have a lot of avenues to do that right now. Trading Coby, that would be painful. It would make them worse. It would make them less exciting. It would make them harder to like identify with because he's been such a likable character for the Bulls. But at the end of the day, it might put them in a better position longer term. So that's the calculus that they have to be weighing right now.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for contributing your questions for today. We did not get to all of them, but guess what? It's the late off season. So the dog days of August and September, we'll have plenty of opportunities to do mailbag episodes. So throw us some questions whenever you feel like it on Twitter, and you diehards, you always get first dibs on mailbag stuff in that diehard Discord. All right. We'll have to be quick with these, but because we promised it, let's deliver it. Let's play Random Bulls Generator.
Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Law. Let's see. You know what? You can just pick whoever goes first, and then I think we will recognize whose that is based on recognizing it or not recognizing it.
All right, we'll go with Goat first.
All right, Goat's up first. Oh, I love it. Not even in a bull. Wait, is that Chris Duarte?
It looks like Chris Duarte.
It's Chris Duarte. I was trying to pull a fast one on you guys. I was hoping, Law, that you would have picked a picture that was like just his face and not like the Kings jersey because I wanted to see if they would be able to get it. But you guys,
by the way, has not played a minute.
He's on the roster.
Bulls yet.
He's on the roster.
Not 1 minute. Not 1 minute.
He was acquired by the team. He is currently on the roster. Give me a break. It counts.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, go playing by his own set of rules out here.
What, if you had just seen his face, would you have gotten it? I think a lot of people wouldn't have.
Or if you're like Dave, I think Fish just made a joke about this in the comments. You may have confused him with Zach LaVine.
Right, call him Zach LaVine. Right,
but up in the stands in summer league.
Right,
he's like, is that Zach? Looks like Zach. Well, nope, that's Chris Duarte.
Nope, it's Chris Duarte, man. The watch threw me off.
Wow. All right.
Oh man, that's funny.
Bulls legend Chris Duarte. Okay, who's up next, Law?
Big Dave will go next here.
Oh my gosh.
That's mine. Yes.
Not a clue.
Cedric Simmons.
That is correct. Cedric Simmons, Matthew Peck. Well done. Cedric Simmons. Yes. On the 08-09 Bulls roster.
Trash. That dude is trash.
Yeah. And like many other players like that, he discovered his greatness when he went overseas.
No.
Then he discovered his greatness, man.
Legend.
Because he was the man. Legend overseas.
Make that paper, boo-boo.
He's still playing. All right. As of 2023, he was still playing ball. What? Yes. Absolutely right, man.
Good for him.
Yeah. But he was still out there hooping, dog. I don't know if he's going to play this year, but he was out there playing for the Seahorses in Makawa.
Makawa Seahorses?
The Makawa Seahorses, the one and only.
I swear.
Makawa Seahorses.
One more season of incompetence and greed and stupidity, and I am renouncing my Bulls fandom, and I am going to be a Seahorse fan.
He was the 15th pick in the draft.
He's played only 18 more games in a Bulls jersey than Chris Duarte.
Wow.
Which means he counts because he played in the jersey.
And
he counts.
You know what that also means is he played more games in a Bulls jersey than my Random Bulls generator.
Oh, snap. Oh, now we're going deep.
Let's hit
now
it.
Now we're going deep.
Ooh.
That's a current.
No, that
looks like a
2004,
that's a G League.
I want to say.
Like a G League guard. Walter Lemon Jr.
Time in the Bulls G, or was it D league?
Yeah. He definitely looks like that.
The number's cut off. I'll give you a hint there. It is number 15.
Well, Walter Lemon Jr. wore 25, so I know it ain't him.
Not Walt Lemon Jr.
And how did I know that? Shout out to me. Wow. 15 looking like that. Put that back up, Lawrence. Let me look at this guy again.
The undrafted superstar from Kansas State.
15. He looked like he could hoop too, but just didn't work out.
Carmelo.
He could
50.
not. Well, I mean,
No, I'm talking about like in college or something like that. Like he could hoop.
He did play 7 NBA seasons for 6 different teams.
Never gave up on his dream. I don't know. I don't have that one. What you got, Will?
I'm kind of cheating and looking it up, but I still don't think I'm right. Cartier Martin.
It is Cartier Martin.
Cartier Martin. Hey.
Played on consecutive 10-day contracts for the Bulls in January of 2014. And if you think about how injury decimated the 2013-14 Bulls were, then that adds up. He made 6 appearances for the Bulls that season after spending 53 games to begin that season with the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, wow. That's awesome, man. Shout out to him, bro, for keeping that dream alive. I always shout out to players that keep going and they don't stop. You can end up like Patrick Beverley. Who knows, man?
Yeah.
Keep going.
I mean, he started his NBA career as a Bobcat. Remember the Bobcats?
Oh, one of the worst NBA names ever. Shout out Bob Johnson, but that name was horrifically bad. I just like how Bob Johnson said, well, when you buy your NBA team, you can name them whatever you want. Oh, well, you're right. Still stinks, but you're right.
Also, shout out to the first name Cartier.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely right. That's a great first name. You're
fantastic.
Right. Shout out Cartier.
There are not many pictures of him wearing a Bulls jersey on Google image search. There is one I found. It was super grainy. It was him giving a high five to Carlos Boozer. And I was like, aw.
Boozer didn't know who he was. He just saw
Boozer was
he's on the team?
Thanking him for grabbing a rebound so Boozer didn't have to.
Get that, Joe. Stop calling me Joe. My name is Cartier.
My name's not Joe. It's Cartier. That is it for today. Joe. That's it for the week. We're out of time. Oh, RBG, our old friend. Always fun. Thanks for tuning in all week. Hit the like button on your way out if you're watching on YouTube. Helps us out a lot. Make sure you also subscribe to that CHGO Sports YouTube channel. And the CHGO Sports YouTube channel is where you can find tomorrow night at 6 Central, the Summer Slam watch along with Big Dave and some of our friends from CHGO. The Blackhawks guys are hanging out. I think Ryan from Cubs is going to hang out.
Yes.
And y'all,
and maybe a couple others will fall through, but yes, that's what's going on. Lawrence will be producing.
Oh, okay. And CM Punk will be fighting and maybe fighting.
Yes, he will.
Seth Rollins.
Seth Jones. Yes, my main man. Seth Jones.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe if you're going out to Lala with all the crazy kids. And we will talk to you back on Monday. Until then, you can follow the GOAT, Will_Gottlieb, Big Dave, Bow, BNWL Sports. I'm Bulls_Pack. We are CHGO_Bulls. Shout out and thanks to our guy at Law on the draw, on the controls. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you. Be good.
Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.